It's 6 o'clock, or just after 6 o'clock Central African time. A very good morning to you. It's time to rise and shine. You're tuned to Channel Africa, where we bring you the African perspective. My name is Peter Ndoro, and we're broadcasting from our studios in Johannesburg in South Africa. Streaming live on the internet, www.channelafrica.co.za. And you can also find us on our mobile app, SABC Plus, that's SABC Plus. And there, just look for Channel Africa and our program, of course, Rise and Shine. So we've got a packed program as usual. I'll tell you a little bit more about the guests that we have on the show. But first of all, I would actually like to say happy Spring Day to everybody in the Southern Hemisphere. The summer cycle is beginning for us, and for those in the Northern Hemisphere, you've had a good summer. It's time to say goodbye. A very good morning to you indeed. And your top stories that we're looking at this hour. The home of Zimbabwean opposition leader Job Sikala was bombed over the weekend. And 32 bodies have been exhumed in southeastern Kenya. We'll have more on these stories and others after the news with Notando Butelezi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo has accused former South African President Thabo Mbeki of siding with the M23 rebels and Rwanda. Congolese officials say that Mbeki is too close to the former DRC President Joseph Kabila, who is facing treason charges linked to the M23 rebellion. This came up after the Thabo Mbeki Foundation invited the DRC government to a peace and security dialogue taking place in this week, which the Congolese government has declined. South Africa's International Relations Department, meanwhile, has finalized the rebranding of its relationship with Taiwan almost 20 years after the ending of its diplomatic relations. They, however, continued to maintain trade relations with Taiwan. Last month, the department gazetted a notice for the relocation of the Taiwanese office from Pretoria to Johannesburg and then changed its name to the Taiwan Commercial Office. But Taiwan's representatives in South Africa say that this contravenes an argument, or rather agreement, that Taipei and Pretoria signed in 1997. Moving on, the Center of the Study of Violence and Reconciliation in South Africa has called on officials in the justice system to ensure that they release accurate gender-based violence statistics in the country. It says that a lack of accurate data is hindering the ability to establish the extent of the violence, to develop effective interventions, as well as to hold authorities accountable. Gugu Nonjinge, who is the center's advocacy specialist, says that they do have a problem with official reporting, and it does continue to remain consistent. And then moving on, South Africa's opposition MK party member advocate Dali Mpofu says that xenophobia that African foreign nationals face in South Africa is in fact Afrophobia, which is a prejudice specifically against black Africans. He was speaking at Zimbabwe's opposition party leader Jacob Sikala's book launch in Johannesburg at the weekend. Mpofu condemned what he deemed deeply rooted racial bias within the discourse of migration. For any news stories that you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Nolutando Butelezi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline this hour, CAF has named Mohamed Himrati as the best player of the Chan tournament. Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka face off in the 2025 US Open fourth round today. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
Every morning after the 6 o'clock news, we take a look at what's happened on the continent in the last few hours with updates from reporters, analysts and experts. And they help put all of those stories into some kind of context for you. And essentially, it's an effort to get you up to date as quickly as possible and get you ready for the news day ahead. And we begin with news from Zimbabwe, where the home of Zimbabwean opposition leader Job Sikala was bombed over the weekend. Some of his children were in the house at the time and fortunately escaped unharmed in the attack. And this happened whilst Sikala himself was in South Africa launching his biographical book, Footprints in the Chains, the life story of Job Sikala.
My wife went for the memorial service of my uncle's wife, who passed on a few months ago in our rural area. So there were only 4 children at our house. Around 12 midnight today, terrorists came at my house and unleashed 2 bombs that completely destroyed the house, the front side of the house, Jura wall and the roofing on the front of the house. And the motor vehicles, I think you've seen the videos that were circulating on the social media. So they destroyed property extensively.
32 bodies have been exhumed in southern eastern Kenya in the past week in a tragedy that is sparking fresh criticism of authorities who'd vowed to crack down on extremist sects after hundreds of members of Doomsday Cult died 2 years ago. Now, the Kenyan government in the village of Kwa Binzaro to the same Christian sect blamed for the deaths of over 400 people in nearby Sakwala forest in 2023.
32 bodies have been exhumed in southeastern Kenya in the past week, sparking fresh criticism of authorities who had vowed to crack down on extremist sects. The discovery in the village of Kwabanzaro comes after hundreds of members of the Doomsday Cult died 2 years ago. Government pathologist Richard Jorogi gave an update at the scene.
Only a few bodies had clothes, most were naked. We have noted that at this particular site, the bodies look a bit fresh. They are not fully skeletonized, unlike last week. The bodies we exhumed last week were full skeletons with no flesh.
A head-on collision in Namibia involving vehicles belonging to the security services has killed 16 people. The accident took place 270 kilometers south of the capital Windhoek, outside the town of Marienthal on Saturday. No words can truly capture the depth of this loss. That's President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah writing on social media, praising the souls of our fallen officers. Namibia has one of the highest road traffic fatality rates in the world. Now, the South African Communist Party in South Africa says that it will never denounce its conference resolution to contest future elections independently. This came out at the end of its 3-day Central Committee meeting in Johannesburg on Sunday. The meeting was called to discuss the state of the economy, jobs and alliance, amongst other issues. Addressing the media, the SACP General Secretary Solima Paila says that they will contest the 2026 local government elections in order to defend the National Democratic Revolution.
The SACP is not preoccupied with contesting the ANC, which remains an ally as long as we share strategic objectives both in theory and practice. Exercising our rights, the SACP will contest the 2026 local government elections to defend, advance and deepen the National Democratic Revolution in connection with the pursuit of socialism while confronting the failed neoliberal policy regime imposed since 1996 under GEAR and subsequent reformist policies. Those who invoke selective amnesia ignore that the SACP rescinded its short-lived initial statement on GEAR, replacing it not only with subsequent statements, resolutions and declarations, but above all, also with a consistent campaign against the policy.
And that's how we come to the end of today's Africa Roundup. We'll have more for you tomorrow after the 6 o'clock news. Stay with us. Coming up shortly, we'll be talking to one of our resident analysts and commentators, Mighty Jamie, and he's going to be making sense of the African News Week that was.
Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mokoenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
The former chairperson of the National Council of Provinces in South Africa, Minwana Mahlangu, has been honoured with a special funeral category 2, and this will take place in Middelburg in Mpumalanga province on Saturday. The presiding officers of Parliament, the National Assembly Speaker Togo Didiza, and the NOCP chairperson Refilwe Mtsweni Tsipane described Mahlangu as a humble leader who was able to build consensus. Abongwe Kobokana reports.
Mahlangu is one of the first lawmakers to serve in Parliament after the 1995 general elections. He was born in Mpumalanga. He served in various multi-party negotiations that have paved the way for the new democratic dispensation. After the dawn of democracy, some of the roles he served in include being South Africa's ambassador to the United States of America, High Commissioner to the Republic of Kenya, as well as the permanent representative to the United Nations office in Nairobi. Both Didiza and Mtsweni Tsipane say Mahlangu is leaving behind a towering legacy. Parliamentary spokesperson Moloto Muthapo.
Mr. Mahlangu, who was known fondly as MJ, leaves behind a towering legacy of political activism, exemplary parliamentary leadership, and diplomatic service to the nation. He served as a member of the Constitutional Assembly, where he formed part of the collective that drafted South Africa's international acclaimed constitution, which remains the bedrock of our democracy today.
Mahlangu is also described as having a sense of humor during his days in the leadership of the institution.
Don't worry, the problem of giving a vote of thanks is that people concentrate on their meals, not on the vote of thanks. But I will continue. I welcome the opportunity to thank all participants in this special ceremony, to bid farewell to the outgoing Auditor General, Mr. Mbembe.
The NCOP has also lost a delegate, an ANC representative, Matilda Michelle, from the Western Cape. Both the presiding officers of the institution have also paid their condolences to her family and friends. Moloto says the presiding officers have passed their condolences.
As Parliament, we mourn the passing of Honorable Matilda Michelle Baines, whose life of service was marked by compassion, dedication, and unyielding commitment to the people that she represented. She entered the National Council of Provinces in 2024, which last year after the elections, as part of the 7th Democratic Parliament, and immediately distinguished herself as a principled and diligent public representative.
And that's the spokesperson for Parliament in South Africa, Moloto Muthapo, ending that report by Abongwe Kobokana in Parliament.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Still in South Africa, the country's Minister of Higher Education and Training, Buti Manamelas, last Friday officially launched the Just Energy Transition Skills Desk and the National Jet Skills Advisory Forum, and also a multi-door initiative at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Johannesburg. Now, speaking on behalf of Deputy President Paul Mashatile, who couldn't make it due to health-related issues, Minister Manamela highlighted that skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion, between economic restructuring and social justice, positioning post-school institutions, including universities, TVET colleges and community centres as central actors in a fair green transformation. Channel Africa reporter Michael Mbewe filed this report.
The strategic goal for the JET Skills portfolio is to construct a coordinated, agile, inclusive and future-oriented skills ecosystem to support the just energy transition and drive socio-economic transformation in South Africa. In his speech, South Africa's Minister of Higher Education, Buti Manamela, emphasized the urgent need to prepare workers in vulnerable sectors for emergent industries such as renewable energy, green hydrogen, electric vehicles, and other sustainable fuels, with the JET Skills Desk acting as the operational engine to coordinate this critical national effort.
We recognize that skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion, between economic restructuring and social justice. As Minister of Higher Education, we are acutely aware that post-school education and training system sits at the center of this transformation. Universities, TVET colleges, community education centers, and industry partners must prepare South Africans, especially workers in vulnerable sectors, for new opportunities in renewable energy, green hydrogen, electric vehicles, and sustainable industries. The JET Skills Desk, housed in our department, will be the operational engine to coordinate this effort.
Addressing funding constraints, Manamela acknowledged that there is currently no dedicated budget line for just energy transitions related skills development, underscoring the importance of mobilizing blended financing where public investment leads, followed by private sector, philanthropic and donor support.
There's currently no dedicated budget line for JET economic transition skills. That is why the mobilization of blended funding is so important. Public investment must lead, private investment must follow, and philanthropic and development partners must catalyze community-based interventions. We want to acknowledge the multi-donor initiative, which we are also launching today. This collaboration with the European Union, Germany, and Switzerland, implemented by GIZ, sends a powerful signal of international confidence in South Africa's JET Skills agenda.
In a complementary vein, Electricity Minister Hossein Zoramogopa underscored the strategic importance of ensuring energy sovereignty amid growing geopolitical tensions, while noting that South Africa's integrated resource plan, now nearing finalization, must balance national interests, security, and a reliable energy mix.
We are having a consequential discussion on a policy position that is of a significant consequence to the South African economy and also to the region. We are in the tail end of finalizing our integrated resource plan. Really, this is, in simple terms, is an electricity plan. It seeks to answer three questions. The first one, it answers the issues of energy sovereignty. I think it's important that in the context of the intensity of geopolitical friction, that the countries need to ensure that they are able to build the guardrails against any threat to their security and therefore their national interest, and therefore national energy security is very important.
He said the project will expand to other regions within SADC, to the rest of the continent.
And then we are going to expand this transmission network into the region and the continent. So these endowments that I'm referring to, the critical minerals to support these transitions, like I said, is in the region. For you to extract this, you need the energy, you need electricity. And that's why we need to support them. And we're building the transmission. We first focus inwardly by supporting the Cape provinces, 14,000 kilometers of new line, modernizing it. And the size of the ticket is about 440 billion rand, the single biggest build program of a post-apartheid era.
He added that the integrated resource plan aims to add additional megawatts to the grid through renewables.
Our quest to transition. So the IRP says the following, that between now and 2030, we'll add 11 gigawatts of PV, 9 gigawatts of wind. When we go to 2042, we say that from 2030 to 2042, we'll add an additional 74 gigawatts of renewables, split between 33 PV, 44 wind. So what's the point I'm making is that our intention and ambition to structurally reconfigure the aggregate mix of the South African energy complex is irreversible. So we get into a point where 60% of our energy, electricity is met through renewables. As I speak to you now, about 78% is fossil fuels. So there's going to be a dramatic and accelerated transition of the structural configuration of the mix.
Meanwhile, South Africa's Deputy Minister of Education, Nomusa Dube, said the Jet Skills Initiative will create a surplus of jobs.
A lot of opportunities. There's a lot of new jobs. We've been talking about green jobs. Those are the jobs that we're talking about. Millions of jobs that are going to be open as we look at other alternative sources of energy. Remember, we're not only looking at one energy component. We're looking at the mix, whether it's biogas, biodiesel, whether it's solar panels or gas to power, hydro. It's all energy mix that we're talking about.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buda, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
The inquest investigating who should be held liable for the Highgate hotel attack in South Africa that took the lives of 5 people, leaving many others injured in May 1993 will resume later this morning in South Africa's Eastern Cape province in the town of East London. The inquest from former police officers and investigators who were part of the team that responded to the scene at the hotel in East London. Now, the officers testified about what they arrived to when they responded to the alert about the incident, whilst former police officer Francois Stassen testified about the collection of fingerprints and the manner in which they were stored. SABC News reporter Sidi Mamfeku has more.
The tribunal heard that the case docket of this matter does not suggest that fingerprints of cartridges collected on the night were lifted, assertions that former police officer Francois Stassen refuted, claiming that the fingerprints must have been collected and that if they are missing, someone might have tampered with the docket. The legal representative of the families and victims, Advocate Howard Vani, lambasted Stassen for allegedly failing to ensure that, as a senior officer at the scene, police investigators combing the scene were in fact doing their jobs.
I want to put it to you, Mr. Stassen, that you are splitting hairs here, and if there was such a record to be found, if it was there, they would have found it. And I want to put it to you, Mr. Stassen, that in fact these levers and cartridges on the available evidence suggests that they were never analysed, and that amounts to a dereliction of duty, Mr. Stassen.
No, sorry. Don't concur.
The tribunal also heard evidence of a former Highgate hotel neighbour, Desiree Smith, who testified that she saw 2 black men armed with heavy guns walking from the hotel a few minutes after the shooting incident. Following unsatisfactory evidence provided by the former police officers in the tribunal and the inconclusive evidence about APLA's involvement in the matter, the presiding judge in the matter, Judge Denzel Potgieter, has called for the public's assistance and information about the matter.
In the interest of justice and of the affected parties, this court will welcome any information that will assist these proceedings. I accordingly call upon anyone with relevant information to come forward and provide it to the court. Such information may be submitted through the Office of the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, reference Captain Vaughan Peterson.
The Foundation for Human Rights, which advocates for justice for victims and the deceased, has also expressed dissatisfaction with the evidence of the police. But as the matter resumes, the tribunal is expected to hear evidence from more witnesses, including members of the NPA. Sidima Mvegu, SABC News, East London.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Wewe ni mjasiriamali unajihusisha na biashara ya kuuza dawa. Jaribu kutuambia kwanza, kwa nini ulianzisha biashara hiyo?
Tutasema kwamba maisha ya kila siku ni kwamba mtu anapaswa kuwa na maisha ya kuweza kujitegemea. Usitegemee kuajiriwa, lakini utegemee kujiajiri, na baadaye utaweza ukaajiri wengine. Na hiyo ilinipa msukumo mkubwa kwa kuweza kujiajiri na kampuni hii kwa ajili ya kuweza kuwasaidia wale ambao wanahangaika zaidi.
Unauza aina gani ya dawa?
Unasema ni dawa, lakini kwetu sisi tunaita kama vile ni pipi, ambayo ni virutubisho ambavyo vinakwenda kusaidia kwa wale ambao wanatatizwa na aina tofauti ya magonjwa.
Virutubisho hivyo sasa vinatibu magonjwa gani?
Virutubisho hivi vinatunza magonjwa kama vile ya kisukari, shinikizo la damu.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Get the news, music and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Now, it's a little bit before hour. It gives me an opportunity to share with you some significant stories that played out in history today, the 1st of September. We go back to 1956, and on this day, the apartheid government in South Africa ordered about 100,000 non-whites to leave their homes in Sophiatown, which was a cosmopolitan area in Johannesburg at the time. And they were told that they had to move within a year. And this was part of the apartheid regime's forced removal and segregation policies, which took place in various parts of the country from that moment on. So Sophiatown, they were told, you got to leave the area, and their homes were literally just taken over. At the same time, in 1969, in Libya, a group of army officers led by Muammar al-Gaddafi deposed King Idris and declared the country a republic. And they say the rest is history. It's 6:30, which means it's time for your news headlines, as we say good morning once again to Norithando Buthelezi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
A woman has been attacked and burned to death by a mob in central Nigeria for alleged blasphemous comments against Prophet Muhammad. International Relations Department says that although South Africa does not have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, it has maintained trade relations with it. And Israel says that it has killed the spokesperson of Hamas armed wing, Abu Obaida, in an aerial strike in the Gaza city. I'll have more details at the top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Right, it's time for us to take a first look at what's been happening in the world of sport. And I've got to tell you, Fikile Lingwati and I are Manchester United supporters, so we are breathing a sigh of relief at the moment, our first victory. But let's get to full bulletin with Fikile Lingwati. Good morning, Fikile.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Morning, Peter. We begin with football news. Morocco's Mohamed Rabi Himrad has been crowned man of the competition of the African Nations Championship CHAN tagged Pamoja 2024 after inspiring his nation to a record third title after a 3-2 win over Madagascar in Saturday's final in Nairobi. The Atlas Lions captain was at the heart of his side's campaign from the group stage to the decider, scoring twice, creating 2 goals and providing consistent leadership in midfield. His performances underlined his reputation as one of Africa's finest home-based players and cemented Morocco's dominance in the tournament. Morocco's Oussama Lamloui was crowned the Puma top scorer of the CAF African Nations Championship after scoring his 5th and 6th goals of the tournament and the Atlas 3-2 victory over Madagascar at the weekend. Some more football news. South Africa's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Leni Mnimeli, has diffused the tension that has built ahead of the September 9th FIFA World Cup qualifier between both countries with a verdict that it is not war. Minele's statement comes at a point when tension is brewing due to Nigeria's desperation to win the upcoming away fixture, while also praying for World Cup governing body FIFA to deduct the South Africa's points for fielding an ineligible player against Lesotho. Minele is quickly making preemptive peace moves.
The warm gesture that has been extended to me. I had the privilege of watching the girls' teams when our team Banyana Banyana was here. It was quite a beautiful game to watch. So I feel really honored. I'd like to say that indeed it's not a war. It's just a competition, a friendly competition that shows our competencies. It's a win this time and a loss the other time, but at the end of the day, we are still brothers. We are still have sisterly relationships that continue beyond the game itself.
Meanwhile, former Super Eagles goalkeeper Greg Itafia has warned the Nigerians to redouble their efforts if they think of getting something favorable from South Africa. Itafia, who made top marks in goal for Plateau United of Jos before taking his trade to South Africa, warned that Bafana Bafana are not the same team that Nigeria used to play against.
I always know that Nigeria is always a tough hurdle. The game is going to be very important. So I just feel like, for a very long time, we haven't had a very tense game waiting for a World Cup qualifier like this. It used to be very nice with Nigeria before, beating South Africa 4 and all those times. But now it's a different South African team because a lot, most especially the local players. And with them qualifying constantly to the Champions League, playing the Confederations Cup, last season was a massive one for them. So I think this is going to be a massive game.
And finally, with the rugby news, the Springbok women booked their place in the quarterfinals of the Women's Rugby World Cup for the first time with a 29-24 victory over Italy in Northampton on Sunday evening. Scores from Ase Zahele, Nadine Rose, Ayanda Malinga and Zopila Solonzi had twice put Vase de Brain side in front, but a valiant Italian side fought back on both occasions. But in the end, it was the Southern Hemisphere outfit who prevailed. For any sports stories that you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Wewe ni mjasiriamali unajihusisha na biashara ya kuuza dawa. Jaribu kutuambia kwanza, kwa nini ulianzisha biashara hiyo?
Tutasema kwamba maisha ya kila siku ni kwamba mtu anapashwa kuwa na maisha ya kuweza kujitegemea. Usitegemee kuajiriwa, lakini utegemee kujiajiri na baadaye utaweza ukaajiri wengine. Na hiyo ilinipa msukumo mkubwa kwa kuweza kujiajiri na kampuni hii kwa ajili ya kuweza kuwasaidia wale ambao wanahangaika zaidi.
Unauza aina gani ya dawa?
Unasema ni dawa, lakini kwetu sisi tunaita kama vile ni pipi, ambayo ni virutubisho ambavyo vinakwenda kusaidia kwa wale ambao wanatatizwa na aina tofauti ya magonjwa.
Virutubisho hivyo sasa vinatibu magonjwa gani?
Virutubisho hivi vinatunza magonjwa kama vile ya kisukari, shinikizo la damu.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Let's get our first business news update. And at the desk this morning, we say good morning to Tabiso Lihuko.
Business news on Channel Africa. the African perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. South Africa's Minister of Higher Education and Training, Buti Manamela, has launched the Just Energy Transition Skills Desk, the National Jet Skills Advisory Forum, and a multi-donor initiative at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Johannesburg. Manamela says skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion between universities, TVET colleges and community centres as central actors in a fair green transformation.
We recognize that skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion, between economic restructuring and social justice.
South Africa's Competition Commission has warned those who attempt to collude and close off competition that they will be caught and prosecuted. This comes as Toyota Financials and Westbank reached a $1.7 million settlement without admission of liability following accusations that Toyota restrained Westbank from offering motor vehicle finance to customers seeking to purchase vehicles at authorized Toyota dealerships. Nothando Makutulela reports.
According to the Competition Commission, a customer approached the commission after Westbank refused to finance a Toyota vehicle purchase. This accusation prompted the commission to look into the matter, and the matter was referred to the Competition Tribunal in 2022. In line with the investigation, the commission found that Toyota was in fact restricting Westbank from financing its clients.
A deputy governor of Mauritius Central Bank, Gerard Saint-Spier, says he had resigned from his post after clashing with the son of the bank's governor, whom he accused of trying to meddle in the running of the institution. Mauritian media reported that Prime Minister Navichandra Ramgoolam had dismissed Saint-Spier, who was the third most senior official at the central bank and had the title of a second deputy governor. Saint-Spier said he had submitted his resignation due to an external influence that was seeking to control certain functions in the bank. Egypt says its real gross domestic product grew by 4.5% in 2024-25 financial year, up from 2.4% the previous year. The country has come under economic pressure from a currency devaluation in March 2024, high inflation, and the impact of the war in Gaza. Inflation, which peaked at a record 38% in September 2023, has begun to ease but remains high. The dollar was adrift as markets looked ahead to a raft of U.S. labor market data this week that could determine the size of the Federal Reserve's expected rate cut later this month. Traders were also still assessing Friday's U.S. inflation data and a court ruling that most of Donald Trump's tariffs are illegal, as well as the U.S. president's ongoing tussle with the Fed over his attempt to fire Governor Lisa Cook. The dollar rose 0.1% against the yuan to 147.20 in the early Asian trade, after having clocked a monthly decline of 2.5% against the Japanese currency on Friday. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,537 naira. Botswana 13.32, Kenya 128 shilling 495, and Zambia 23 kwacha 65. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you 5 real 42. Russia 79 rubles 97, India 88 rupees 14, China 7 yuan 12, and in South Africa the dollar will cost you 17 rand 62 cents. 74 pence a British pound, 85 to the euro. Gold is trading at $3,473 and platinum $1,373 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $67.23 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisono Hoku.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa.
Now it's time for our G20 fact of the day. Now, did you know that the timing of South Africa's presidency is especially significant as Africa's role within the G20 is rapidly expanding? For the first time, an African nation will hold the presidency, marking a significant milestone. Additionally, the formal addition of the African Union as a permanent member of the G20 is a development that has the potential to carry substantial weight for the continent. And that is our G20 fact for the morning.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
As South Africa commemorates Women's Month, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, together with Standard Bank South Africa, hosted the G20 Women to Africa Collaborative Ecosystems for Successful and Resilient Women Business Dialogue on Friday. The dialogue, held in Sandton, which is just north of Johannesburg, convened leading voices from across Africa and the diaspora with private sectors to drive coordinated action to promote women leadership, economic empowerment as part of fostering solidarity, equality and sustainability. Nhlanhla Mahlangu reports.
As South Africa prepares to host the G20 on the African soil for the first time, the G20 Women to Africa Dialogue marked a defining moment to spotlight women as catalysts of Africa's economic transformation. In her keynote address, the Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities of South Africa, Sindisiwe Chikunga, said the African Continental Free Trade Area, the largest integration project in the world, must open its value chains to women who already make up 70% of cross-border traders.
If AfCFTA does not work for women, it will not work for Africa. At domestic level, South Africa has made some progress. As a matter of fact, women now make up 43% in cabinet, 43.5% in parliament, and 45% of judiciary. As a matter of fact, for the first time in South Africa, we have a Chief Justice who is a woman. And for the first time in South Africa, the principal of UNISA is a woman. The new Public Procurement Act makes the 40% set aside for women-owned businesses binding and not optional. Yet challenges remain. 35.7% women's unemployment is a challenge, with young women above 44%. Women represent less than 13% of patent holders, and the cost of gender-based violence and femicide drains our economy of billions of rands each year. These realities remind us that progress without transformation is organized inequality. And they demand that Africa's G20 presidency, and we demand that, must not end with words, but with legacy of systems that work for women.
Discussions tackled issues such as persistent barriers facing women-owned businesses in Africa, underinvestment in women, structural inequalities, and systematic gaps that remain despite existing policies. In an effort to address these challenges, Standard Bank has announced that it will invest $10 million to the African Women Impact Fund in support of women fund managers with businesses in Africa. Luvuyo Masinda, the Chief Executive for Corporate and Investment Banking at Standard Bank, says by strengthening the role of women as fund managers and decision makers, they are helping expand access to finance, unlock opportunities, and drive growth.
Women entrepreneurs across the continent are growing businesses at nearly twice the rate of men. Nevertheless, they remain disproportionately excluded, as I've mentioned. We have therefore advanced gender inclusion by spearheading a push and an ambition to raise $1 billion over the next 10 years for the Africa Women Impact Fund. This is a first-of-its-kind initiative that empowers women fund managers across the continent. Already the fund has raised $24 million and supported 10 women fund managers with working capital and incubation services. And we do this in partnerships with a number of our clients and other players in the financial services sector. To underscore the seriousness of this endeavor, we at Standard Bank are investing $10 million for this year. This contribution serves as direct support to women fund managers operating across the continent. We believe that through such initiatives, we're empowering women as fund managers and multiplying the reach of capital into women-owned and women-led businesses.
In her message of support, former African Union Commission Chairperson Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma called for more collaboration and the ratification of the African Free Continental Free Trade Area.
Let us collaborate in making the free movement of people and goods across Africa a reality. Trade cannot happen if goods and people can't move freely. There is a protocol that our heads of state signed allowing free movement of people and goods. But it has only been rectified maybe by 4 or 5 countries. And because as citizens and as women, we're not taking our responsibility to hold them accountable, why aren't we rectifying this? And that's why our trade will remain low, intra-African trade will remain low. So we need to make sure that our countries do rectify. I think South Africa hasn't yet ratified, and many others, I think it's only 4 or 5 that have. So we need to make sure that our parliaments do that.
During Women's Month, South Africa celebrates women as active agents of change and social transformation. The commemoration also allows the country to take stock of achievements and challenges that remain while mobilizing support for further development of women. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Ntlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le Diamant Sport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Let's go to South Africa now, where areas north of South Africa's Durban city on the east coast have seen an increase in the number of breast and cervical cancer cases. That's according to KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Health MEC Nomagugu Simelane, who led a screening campaign at Dr. Pixley Isagaseme Memorial Hospital in the township of KwaMashu. Their aim was to reach out to about 2,500 women from Phoenix, Inanda, Ntunzuma and KwaMashu in just one day. Cervical cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths among women in South Africa. Dries Liebenberg reports.
According to research published in the South African Journal of HIV Medicine in 2023, records show that only 19% of South African women go for a pap smear every 3 years to screen for cervical cancer, as opposed to the goal of 70%. Because women don't undergo regular pap smears, cervical cancer claims more lives every year than breast cancer. KwaZulu-Natal Health MEC Nomagugu Simelane says they plan to take the screening drive to rural areas as well.
We know if we are able to pick the cancer, cervical cancer in early stages, we are able to treat it. If we are able to pick up breast cancer in the early stages, we are able to treat it. And we see that a lot of women are currently dying by or killed by cancers that actually shouldn't be killing them, because if they had been picked up earlier, we could be able to save them. So this is a drive that we are not just implementing now in this area only. We are going to be going to rural districts as well, because we find that the rural communities, they also have a challenge, and our positive numbers are going up there steadily.
Women of all ages arrived at the hospital to be screened. This is what some of them had to say.
I don't want to lie to you, I don't know anything about cancer. But when the children took me through it and explained to me, Ma, go and do your pap smear. I never had an education, but I know what pap smear is, and I hold on to the word pap smear.
I'm a cancer survivor, and I thank God. I want to encourage other women to go to their clinics more frequently so that they can get tested. You will live and be healthy, just like me.
Apart from older women feeling embarrassed to undergo a cervical examination and the discomfort of the procedure, Similani says people also have the attitude that you only go to a clinic once you are sick.
But we also find that even when they have tested, some don't come to pick up their results and some don't follow up on the treatment. So it's a number of issues that are affecting our communities. But there's also a greater understanding or something that our communities deal with, that you don't have to go to a clinic unless you are sick. And we want to say to our communities, you actually have to go to a clinic before you are sick.
Nursing sister Bawinile Dlamini from the Umzinyathi district on the KwaZulu-Natal North Coast, who brought people to the screening, says one of the biggest problems is ignorance.
They don't have knowledge, only a few do. But when you sit down with patients and teach them, as a healthcare worker, I sit down with them. And once I've gone through it, they are more receptive and informed.
The women who attended the screening won't have to return to the hospital for their results. They will be able to pick it up at their local clinic in 6 weeks. I'm Dries Liebenberg in Durban.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
South African veteran actress Nandi Nyembe was laid to rest at West Park Cemetery in Johannesburg this past Saturday. Industry colleagues, family, friends and loved ones had come out in their numbers to pay their last respects to the renowned performer. She died in hospital at the age of 75 after a long illness. Nyembe had a career spanning over 4 decades and graced South African television screens, where she starred on various shows such as Yizo Yizo, Soul City, Zone 14, Isibaya and Adulting, amongst others. Horisani Sitole has more.
Nandi Nyembe has been hailed as a formidable performer whose talent mesmerized audiences from across the world. Many in the industry remember her as someone who wanted to see everyone win. Desmond Dube recalls how he met her long before he could even become an actor.
The first time I picked up Nandi, it was before I became an actor. At the time I was homeless. Kidula, just outside the Market Theatre. Just outside the Market Theatre, behind the Market Theatre, where there is a mall now. And all I remember is that Magogo Nadula abata umpadi business ideas. So I'm also here to come and pay my respect. The pain was unbearable, and now I'm sure you're going to have peace.
Born in Kliptown, Soweto, Nyembe became a household name as she embodied powerful and relatable roles, reflecting the struggles and triumphs of ordinary South Africans through her artistic talent. Her grandson Jabulani Nyembe paid a moving tribute.
How do we say goodbye to Mphefumlo, who gave the world her laughter, her tears, her talent, and her heart? Behind the spotlight, she transformed us into stronger, kinder, and braver versions of ourselves. As we lay her to rest, we are reminded that though the curtain may fall, the story she wrote with her life will continue.
Actor Tokonchinga told mourners that the industry is evil, but it can only take performers to change it. She has also called on the living legends who are receiving old age grant to join funeral policies to prevent the situation that when they die, there's no money to bury them.
It's up to us as ama-artists ukuthi senze lento. Ama-legends, I'm not sure, mna ndiyayamkela inkamnkam. Andikho uba amanye ama-legends ayaya ayofola amkele inkamnkam. Xa ufumana inkamnkam, there is a portion ethathwayo ifakwe kwi-funeral ntontoni. Then we would not be collecting. Ngoba at least i-box izawuphuma. At least abantu abakolekayo bakolekela phezu kwa something. We need to look after ourselves ngokwethu.
Poet Mzwakembuli says the country is losing heroes and heroines.
You know, if shovels could speak, they would say they are tired of digging graves, you know, or kusisanjola amaqhawe namaqhawekazi. Ukufa kuyinoku ngesizulu, kuyinoku kuyisela. Death is a thief. It always strikes when least expected. Isithathela abantu esisabadinga. Akukho mnandi ukufa kujwayeleki. We'll never get used to it, except ukuthi we'll always say the end of a human being or the natural end of a human being is death. So it means whoever is born will obviously one day depart from this planet Earth.
South Africans have been urged to continue to keep the spirit of Nyembe alive.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Spring Day, it's the 1st of September, beginning of a brand new month, and I take you back in history once again. 1975, on the 1st of September, the Victoria Falls Conference. Now, this was a high-stakes negotiation aimed at ending the Rhodesian Bush War and finding a peaceful path to black majority rule. And this was held on a train on the Victoria Falls Bridge. The talks ultimately failed, though, leading to the continuation of the war. That was 1975. Well, things did progress over time. Eventually, the war intensified, and that forced the parties to the table. They met at Lancaster House again in the late 70s. And that led to eventual independence in Zimbabwe in 1980. So 1975, one of the efforts that were put on the table didn't quite work. And in 1975, the same year, on the same day, Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia died at the age of 83, reportedly assassinated after being imprisoned for nearly a year following a military coup. And that's your day in history across the continent. We'll have more for you during the course of the program. Right now, though, it's at 7 o'clock, which means it's time for your news. Here's Nolutando Buthelezi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. A woman has been attacked and burned to death by a mob in central Nigeria, this after alleged blasphemous comments against the Prophet Muhammad. The incident reportedly happened on Saturday after the woman made comments considered to be offensive while interacting with a customer in her restaurant. The BBC's Chris Ibuka has details. South Africa's International Relations Department has finalized the rebranding of its relationship with Taiwan almost 20 years after ending its diplomatic relations. They, however, continue to maintain trade relations with Taiwan. Last month, the department gazetted a notice for the relocation of the Taiwanese office from Pretoria to Johannesburg and changed its name to Taiwan Commercial Office. But Taiwan's representatives in South Africa say that this contravenes an agreement that Taipei and Pretoria signed in 1997. The department's Minister Ronald Lamula explains South Africa's stance.
The issue of the relocation of the Taiwan liaison office, we have, from our side, we consider it done because we have gazetted its relocation to the city of Johannesburg as a commercial liaison office, and we have stated the reasons because our relations with Taiwan are at the commercial level and trade.
Eswatini opposition Pudemo's Treasurer General Vela P. Mamba has strongly criticized the resurgence of monarchies and traditional leadership across Africa. He was speaking during the launch of Zimbabwe opposition leader Job Sikala's book in Johannesburg at the weekend. Mamba says that while his party fights for change in Eswatini, that does not entitle them to rule.
We as Pudemo are fighting for change in Swaziland, but that doesn't give us a license to govern. The license to govern belongs to the people of Swaziland. So this question of sovereignty is very important. And this resurgence, comrades, of monarchies and traditional leaders is a dangerous thing for this continent.
The Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation in South Africa, meanwhile, has called for officials in the justice system to ensure that they release accurate gender-based violence statistics in the country. It says that a lack of accurate data is hindering the ability to establish the extent of the violence, to develop effective interventions, as well as to hold authorities accountable. Gugu Nonjinge of the Center of Advocacy Specialist.
As a country, we definitely have a problem of official reporting. It remains inconsistent. The data that we're working with and the numbers that we're working in are numbers that are from 3 to 4 years ago, right? Even the fourth quarter crime statistics for 2024-2025 omitted disaggregated data on crimes against women and children. And you ask why, considering that we have these high levels of gender-based violence.
Israel says that it has killed the spokesperson of Hamas armed wing Abu Obaida in an aerial strike within the Gaza city. Israel's defense minister Israel has congratulated the Israel Defense Forces and Israel's security agency Shin Bet for the flawless execution in a post on X. Hamas has not confirmed his death. The Palestinian armed group earlier said that dozens of civilians were killed and injured in the Israeli airstrikes on the residential building in the district. The BBC's Emir Nadia has the details.
He became known across the Middle East as really one of the most prominent figures from Hamas's military wing. His killing will be a significant blow to Hamas, a symbolic blow. We've been speaking to some residents from Gaza City who described a terrifying series of Israeli airstrikes, and we've seen some of the aftermath, the videos of the street filled with dust, children covered in blood. The Israeli Minister of Defense praised what he called a flawless operation.
For any news stories that you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Nolutando Butelezi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In a sports headline, brilliant Springbok women pull off an Italian job at Women's Rugby World Cup. Oscar Piastri has extended his championship lead following an eventful Dutch Grand Prix. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la africaine.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
Now, despite the seemingly irreconcilable relations between the South African National Congress and its alliance partner, the South African Communist Party, the SACP, the Communist Party says that it's still committed to the alliance and its unity. This at the end of a 3-day plenary of its Central Committee meeting on Sunday. And at the heart of the political discourse between the two historical allies is the party's decision to contest elections independently, a move that some say is an effort to liquidate the ANC. Our political correspondent Ntebo Mukhobo has more.
The love between historical allies, the ANC and the SACP, is on the rocks. Several meetings called to mend relations following the SACP's decision to go it alone in future elections seem to have failed. At the heart of it is what the SACP calls the ANC's failure and refusal to reconfigure the alliance in more than 20 years. SACP General Secretary Solima Paila says when they engage their ally on the subject, they are only met with arrogance.
It's the arrogance, not that we can't find each other, it's arrogance. First, the alliance found each other on the question of reconfiguration. We had a joint document agreed in 2019. We agreed in 2019 on the process of reconfiguration of the alliance. The ANC has not been serious about it. Now, our Congress decision reacting to that unseriousness of the ANC gave us a deadline to contest elections with or without the reconfiguration of the alliance. If by end of December 2022, we have not reached one another about the process of implementation of the reconfiguration of the alliance.
Although well aware of the political ramification the SACP's decision could have on the ANC's electoral process, ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula said he doesn't see any chance of convincing the SACP on its stance.
The SACP wants to contest elections. We may not succeed to persuade them to get out of that resolution. If all fails, we must now, as the ANC, sit down and decide what are we going to do. You can see from the General Secretary that is determined to implement that resolution. That resolution have got far-reaching implications for the alliance. So we will talk to the Communist Party as per mandate, but should we fail, we're going to convene an NEC meeting special that will include the discussion on the SACP decision.
But Mapaila said despite their differences, they are still committed to the unity of the alliance.
We are committed to the alliance despite the lies that have been fed into the public. But alliance of equals, it's as simple as that. It was a take it or leave it. We told them that the options in front of our Special National Congress is whether we go it alone or we opt for a concept of flexibility in which we can work out the details. They said no. We could not convince our Congress otherwise because the ANC leadership said no. This is quite unfair on us. Now, when the Congress said, okay, because the ANC says no, we are reaffirming our own Congress decision and we are implementing this decision, we are the ones that are labeled trying to destroy the alliance. No, we are committed to the unity of the alliance, the unity of the working class and the liberation forces.
He said asking for the reconfiguration of the alliance was not a big ask from the ANC. Mapaila sketched out the kind of relationship they would want with their alliance partner.
The non-negotiables in the reconfiguration of the alliance will never accept unilateralism. We need collective engagements, and we remain open to engage with the ANC. But this engagement should not be premised on the basis that we withdraw from participating in the election, then we have a talk. No, what kind of demand is that? That's also non-negotiable, because we have never asked them to withdraw their positions, but also for the ANC to humble itself to its allies. Not to think that they can just say, you are the ally, we have been in charge all along, you do as we say. No.
Earlier, former ANC President Thabo Mbeki was quoted as saying, the reconfiguration posture adopted by the SACP is an attempt to introduce a new center which would replace the ANC. He said they cannot agree to a situation where the leader of the National Democratic Revolution gets subjected to some entity like the Reconfigured Alliance. But Mapaila said no one has the monopoly of the National Democratic Revolution.
The NDR is not a program privately owned by the ANC. In fact, it's not even privately owned by the Alliance. It's a social transformation program based on analysis of material conditions in this country to develop a program of liberation. Any other force can take it and implement it, except the Alliance forces, because they developed it. They understand its thoroughgoing nature and ability of transformation. No one owns the NDR. It's the same as socialism. We don't own socialism. We're fighting for it. So the ANC is a multi-class organization. We don't question, for instance, when they've got capitalists serving inside the African National Congress, including its president. Now, it's a strange thing when communists are now being asked to leave. And the worst is when this expression comes from senior leaders.
Meanwhile, the ANC is expected to hold its National Executive Committee meeting later this week to reflect on, among others, how its members and structures ought to relate with the SACP on its relation to state power, the dual membership and other political developments in the country. I am Tebo Mokobe in Johannesburg.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is said to be displeased with the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola's decision to return 121 investigation dockets to KwaZulu-Natal province. Now, these dockets are at the center of claims by Provincial Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, a senior officer respected for his anti-corruption drive. Mkhwanazi has accused suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu of meddling in police affairs, including the disbanding of a political killings task team and the reassigning of sensitive case files to help us unpack the implications. We're now joined on the line by Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, who's acting director at the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution at the Nelson Mandela University in the Eastern Cape. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. A long time no hear.
Yes, it's been a while, but good to hear your voice. Before we get into this issue with the police commissioner and President Ramaphosa, maybe if I could just get a few comments from you on the South African Communist Party and its position in terms of running for elections on its own, but at the same time saying that we're still part of the alliance. Are these positions not incongruous?
Look, I think some people have been using the Communist Party as a Trojan horse or as a screen, to access political power, and by so doing access the material gains at different levels of government. Because why would you want to walk out of the alliance, or why, when your alliance partner is on the back foot, now you want to stand by yourself? The SACP, when the ANC was very hegemonic, took a posture that it will swell the ranks of the ANC. All of a sudden, look, it's an open secret. Let's face it, the ANC is not going to bounce back to power in the upcoming local government election. And they are well aware of that. And because of that, they are trying to make sure that because under the current circumstances, they only have 2 seats in the GNU, and they're quite unhappy about that. If, for instance, this is my hypothesis, if the Communist Party had a strong footprint in the GNU, they would not be making this noise. So it's because they know, because of what had happened, it might happen again. Therefore, they need to stand on their own. But I think it will have a negative spillover effect to the National Democratic Revolution project, because that is what is bringing them to. But also, what it means, in my view, is that now they will have to discipline the Communist Party, because what is the difference between what Zuma did and what the Communist Party wants to do? It's the same thing, because you want to apply double standards. You want to be part of the alliance on the one hand, on the other hand, you want to stand by yourself.
Could this mean the end of the tripartite alliance? No, COSATU is still there. And I wonder if on the horizon there might not even be a genuine Labour Party.
Well, if they forge ahead and they are allowed to do as they please, then what is the point of the National Democratic Revolution? Now, with regard to COSATU, we must remember the Communist Party is the vanguard of the working class. That's the class that it pitches its message to. The trade unions, which are under COSATU, those are the schools of the working class. Now, there should be no assumption, in my view, that because you are the vanguard, all the votes of the working class will come to you. That is a wrong assumption, because the terrain is contested by a range of political players. The EFF is also contesting the working class. The PAC is also contesting the working class. AZAPO is also contesting the working class. But the other thing that the Communist Party has failed to do has been the lack of instilling class consciousness amongst the work. So it doesn't mean that because you've got a working class on a large scale, therefore that working class is going to vote for you.
Okay, let's move to this other issue. President Ramaphosa seems very unhappy with General Fanny Masemola's decision to return 121 dockets to KwaZulu-Natal. Why do you think that is the case? Because this has really been at the heart of this new commission, surely.
Look, I mean, I don't know if this does not give credence to the allegations made by Mkhwanazi that there has been political interference here. Because why would you have a broken heart when the dockets have been handed over where they belong, so that those who have been appointed to get the job done are able to do so? What is the issue? So to me, this gives credence to that. And it begs the question if those who are in high places are really interested in terms of uncovering the truth about what had happened. And this is extremely important, Peter, in the light of the upcoming local government elections, because people have been killed in KZN on a large scale. But the findings have not really made us to find comfort in them in terms of making sure that people are brought to book. So I mean, this is quite a very interesting turn of events.
I mean, just even expressing displeasure is problematic, isn't it? Because it would suggest that the police ought to be keeping him happy.
Of course. Look, I mean, I don't know what is the issue, because the precursor to this is I forgot the name of this commission, but it was set up to uncover the truth about what had happened. And then the findings were never laid bare in a way that brought people who were on the wrong into book. And I think that's why they've been critical of these commissions, that they don't achieve their intended objectives. So I think the National Commissioner is feeling the pressure now, because he has been accused by the General of KZN, Mkhwanazi, for being at fault in terms of holding back the but also in terms of disbanding the political task team that was instituted to address this matter. So I don't understand what is the issue. I mean, of all people, for crying out loud, you don't expect the head of state to really be discontent when what I call a service delivery is being accelerated.
I suppose we're going to have to wait to hear what the president actually says in reaction, because this is a report by a newspaper, and I mean, he probably has to deny it, right?
Of course, because it's I mean, it's a contradiction. But silence is a golden. I mean, if he is quiet, then we can presuppose that article is valid. Otherwise, you would have spoken against it. But it's a matter of a concern. You know, the issue of security is extremely important. The government cannot talk about growing this economy, promoting development for the majority, if it doesn't address the security apparatus of the country, because there is a symbiotic a relationship between the security architecture and the economy of this country. So if our government is interested in terms of promoting development, putting our country on the map on a global scale, they will have to address the security gaps.
Dr. Breakfast, always great talking to you. I hope that it's not a long time until the next time we have a chat. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Peter, and all the best. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Nsigilelo Breakfast, who's the director at the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution at Nelson Mandela University.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So yeah, that's who I am, you know.
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with a community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Zimbabwe's outspoken politician Job Sikala has described the bombing of his home in Harare as a barbaric and cowardly act after unknown assailants targeted his house in the early hours of Saturday. The attack, which occurred at his St. Mary's home in Chitungwiza, which is just outside Harare, did not result in any casualties, although his children were in the house at the time. Sikala was at the time in South Africa preparing for the launch of his autobiography, Footprints in the Change, the life story of Job Sikala. As I said, only his children were home, and whilst his wife was away attending a memorial service in a nearby village. The National Democratic Working Group, the NDWG, which Sikala leads, claimed the attack was politically motivated and represented a serious threat to democracy. Well, for more on this story, we're now joined by Channel Africa correspondent in Zimbabwe, John Kasim. John, thanks very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
John, what has been the reaction in Harare from the authorities in terms of this bomb blast? Have the police said anything?
I have been searching for maybe any statement by the police. Usually the police nowadays, they communicate via statements which they send on their WhatsApp channels, Facebook and other social media platforms. I didn't see anything that came from the police that spoke about the bombing in St. Mary's at Job Sikala's house. It could be that maybe they are still investigating, trying to see what could have happened. But from what Sikala was saying, while least in South Africa, he indicated that the police were on the ground and that they were waiting for the military personnel to come, because anything to do with the bombs is dealt with the military in Zimbabwe, even though the police have the first-hand authority to deal with the situation. So we didn't see any statement coming from the police. But of course, we saw videos of the damages and the children describing what really happened during the early hours of Saturday.
What did the children say?
They were talking of that around 12 midnight, they had two blasts, and the blasts were very loud, and they shook the house, the entire house. And when they came out of the house, that's when they started seeing some damages. The roof, part of the house and the garage was damaged. Pillars to the garage and at the back of the house were also damaged. There were cracks all over the house, cracks on the Jura, the wall that surrounds the house for protection. The windows all over the house were cracked and damaged, and quite a number of other damages could be seen actually in the video. So the children were saying there were only 4 of them at the house during the time of the bomb, and the parents were away. Is just confirming what Job Sikala and said, that his wife was also in the rural area for the memorial service. So on the video, the damages, definitely they were intense, and it shows that either some explosives like maybe dynamite were used during the blast.
I was just about to ask about those explosives. What do we know about them? Because it's unlikely that ordinary civilians would have access to such highly explosive material.
Yeah, definitely. But Zimbabwe, anything is possible now. And if you also look at the way explosives are readily available in the mining community, by the way, we have more than 1 million Zimbabweans who are in the artisanal mining sector in Zimbabwe. Some of them are also buying these explosives, cyanide and so forth. Cyanide, we also find it being used in the poaching of elephants and so forth. So, like I said, anything is possible in Zimbabwe because these things are happening anyway.
So, Mr. Sikala's grouping, the National Democratic Working Group, said that this is politically motivated. And Mr. Sikala himself has pointed the finger directly at the authorities. What is the speculation, and what are people thinking is happening on the ground?
Yeah, we cannot blame Sikala for accusing ZANU-PF and accusing the government for such an act, because ahead of the book launch in South Africa, Sikala tried to launch his book 3 times in Zimbabwe, twice in Harare and Bulawayo, and then in Masvingo. On all those occasions, there were skirmishes there, and it is alleged some ZANU-PF guys were following him each time he wanted to launch the book, and there were fights there. People were injured, books were torn, statements were torn apart. So we cannot rule out the fact that people within the ZANU-PF or ruling party and government were also involved in the bombing. Because if you also look at the coincidence that Sikala was in South Africa to do the book launch, the same book launch that was actually disrupted in Harare, Bulawayo, and Masvingo, then all of a sudden there's a bombing in his house. Some may say Sikala is an attention seeker and he was trying to get attention and he did this to himself. But definitely, on the other hand, we are also hearing other people, political analysts, saying, no, this could be a hand from the authorities trying to silence Job Sikala.
John, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for that update.
My pleasure.
That's John Kasim, our correspondent in Harare, giving us the latest on this bombing that took place over the weekend at Job Sikala's home. And just to give you a bit of context, he is the most persecuted opposition figure in Zimbabwe. He's been arrested 70 times and never convicted. And this wasn't the first bombing that he's experienced. He's had several bombing incidents over time. So it's not difficult to believe that maybe the hand of authority is over this particular incident. But we'll keep on top of that story for you. It's 7:30 Central African Time. Here are your news headlines with Noluthando Buthelezi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
A woman has been attacked and burned to death by a mob in central Nigeria for alleged blasphemous comments against the Prophet Muhammad. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has arrived in Beijing to attend the September 3rd commemorations of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression. And there's been around 500 people killed and 1,000 injured during an earthquake in Afghanistan. I'll have the details top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. the African perspective.
And with our sports, a very good morning once again to Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
We start off with rugby news. The Springbok women booked their place in the quarterfinals of the Women's Rugby World Cup for the first time with a 29-24 victory over Italy in Northampton on Sunday evening. Scores from Aseza Hele, Nadine Roos, Ayanda Malinga, Sizopila Solonzi had twice put Svei's de Bruyn's side in front, but a valiant Italian side fought back on both occasions. But in the end, it was the Southern Hemisphere outfit who prevailed, and the emotion was there for all to see from those in green come full-time as referee Ella Goldsmith's whistle was met with wild celebrations. South Africa's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Lini Minele, has diffused the tension that has been building up ahead of the September 9th FIFA World Cup qualifier between both countries with a verdict that it is not war. Minele's statement comes at a point when tension is brewing due to Nigeria's desperation to win the upcoming away fixture, while also praying for World Football Governing Body FIFA to deduct the South Africa's points for fielding an ineligible player against Lesotho. In an apparent understanding of the dire situation of things heading into that match, Minele is quickly making preemptive peace moves.
The gesture, the warm gesture that has been extended to me. I had the privilege of watching the girls' teams when our team Banyana was here. It was quite a beautiful game to watch. So I feel really honored. I'd like to say that indeed it's not a war. It's just a competition, a friendly competition that shows our competencies. It's a win this time and a loss the other time, but at the end of the day, we are still brothers. We still have sisterly relationships that continue beyond the game itself.
Meanwhile, the former Super Eagles goalkeeper Greg Itavia has warned the Nigerians to redouble their efforts if they think of getting something favorable from South Africa.
I always know that Nigeria is always a tough hurdle. The game is going to be very important. So I just feel like, for a very long time, we haven't had a very tense game waiting for a World Cup qualifier like this. It used to be very nice with Nigeria before, beating South Africa 4 and all those times. But now it's a different South African team because they have improved a lot, most especially the local players. And with them qualifying constantly to the Champions League, playing the Confederations Cup, last season was a massive one for them. So I think this is going to be a massive game.
Tennis news: Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka will square off in a blockbuster US Open fourth round match today in the afternoon at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The two former US Open champions and longtime friends will meet for the sixth time as competitors and for the first time on Ashe in 6 years. As they converge once again in Flushing Meadows, they are older, more accomplished and more vulnerable. While Gauff and Osaka headline the day session at Ashe, tennis great Venus Williams will take the court in doubles at Louis Armstrong later in the day as the 45-year-old continues her remarkable comeback. And lastly, motor racing: Oscar Piastri powered to victory at an incident-packed Dutch Formula One Grand Prix yesterday, with home favourite Max Verstappen claiming second place as Piastri's McLaren's teammate Lando Norris suffered a dramatic breakdown late in the race. Piastri led from pole to checkered flag at the Zandvoort circuit in a race that saw the safety car deployed 3 times to stretch his lead over Norris to 34 points in the championship race. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Wewe ni mjasiriamali unajihusisha na biashara ya kuuza dawa. Jaribu kutuambia kwanza, kwa nini ulianzisha biashara hiyo?
Tutasema kwamba maisha ya kila siku ni kwamba mtu anapashwa kuwa na maisha ya kuweza kujitegemea. Usitegemee kuajiriwa, lakini utegemee kujiajiri na baadaye utaweza ukaajiri wengine. Na hiyo ilinipa msukumo mkubwa kwa kuweza kujiajiri na kampuni hii kwa ajili ya kuweza kuwasaidia wale ambao wanahangaika zaidi.
Unauza aina gani ya dawa?
Unasema ni dawa miwa, lakini kwetu sisi tunaita kama vile ni pipi, ambayo ni virutubisho ambavyo vinakwenda kusaidia kwa wale ambao wanatatizwa na aina tofauti ya magonjwa.
Virutubisho hivyo sasa vinatibu magonjwa gani?
Virutubisho hivi vinatunza magonjwa kama vile ya kisukari, shinikizo la damu.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
It's time now to take a look at what's happening in the world of business, commerce and economics as we say good morning once again to Tabiso Lihuko.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. Ford South Africa says it is planning to lay off more than 470 employees as it seeks to adjust the production capacity to match current and future market demands. The jobs affected are 391 operator positions at the Silverton car assembly plant in the country's capital, Pretoria, 73 at the Struendale engine plant in Gqeberha, a major seaport, and 10 administrative roles. Labour Union Solidarity says that this move by Ford is indicative of economic pressures, international political uncertainties, and the government's unfavourable policies, which are making the industry increasingly less competitive. South Africa's Minister of Higher Education and Training, Buti Manamela, has launched the Just Energy Transition Skills Desk, the National Jet Skills Advisory Forum, and a multi-donor initiative. Manamela says skills are a bridge between a transition and inclusion between universities, TVET colleges and community centres as central actors in a fair green transformation.
We recognize that skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion, between economic restructuring and social justice.
South Africa's Competition Commission has warned those who attempt to collude and close off a competition that they will be caught and prosecuted. This comes as Toyota Financials and Westbank reached a $1.7 million settlement without admission of liability, following accusations that Toyota restrained Westbank from offering motor vehicle finance to customers seeking to purchase vehicles at authorized Toyota dealerships. Nothando Makutulela reports.
According to the Competition Commission, a customer approached the commission after Westbank refused to finance a Toyota vehicle purchase. This accusation prompted the commission to look into the matter, and the matter was referred to the Competition Tribunal in 2022. In line with the investigation, the commission found that Toyota was in fact restricting Westbank from financing its clients.
On to Mauritius now. A deputy governor there, Gerard Sanspear of the central bank, says he resigned from his post after clashing with the son of the bank's governor, whom he accused of trying to meddle in the running of the institution. Mauritian media reported that the Prime Minister Navichandra Ramgoolam had dismissed Sanspear, who was the third senior official at the central bank and had the title of a second deputy governor. Sanspear says he had submitted his resignation due to an external influence that was seeking to control certain functions in the bank. Asian shares started the new month in the red after a court ruling threw another wrench into U.S. tariff policy, and investors braced for a reading on U.S. jobs that could determine the cause of rate cuts there. A holiday in the United States made for thin conditions, though Wall Street and European futures were still trading with small gains after retreating on Friday. The dollar and bonds were little moved ahead of a U.S. busy week for data, which includes surveys of manufacturing and services. The dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,537 naira. Botswana 13.32, Kenya 128 shilling 495, and Zambia 23 kwacha 65. The BRICS countries Let me start here in South Africa. The dollar is trading at 17 Rand 62 cents in India. It's at 88 rupees 14. China, 7 yuan 12. In Brazil, 5 ruble 42. And in Russia, the dollar will cost you 79 rubles 97. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Gold $3,473 and platinum $1,373 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $67.23 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabiso Lohoko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Vue d'Afrique avec Joël Mouteba.
Cette peur d'un point de non-retour nucléaire suffit-elle selon vous à légitimer une telle offensive, Monsieur Taladi?
Absolument pas du tout. Cela fait plus de 30 ans que l'Israël crie haut et fort sur les toits, où il veut se faire entendre que l'Iran serait à 1 an pour obtenir l'arme nucléaire. Parfois, l'Iran serait à 6 mois. Parfois, l'Iran serait à 2 semaines pour obtenir son arme nucléaire. Et curieusement, jusqu'à ce jour, il n'y a toujours aucune preuve que l'Iran a obtenu cette arme nucléaire en dépit des déclarations d'Israël et de certaines puissances parfois.
Vue d'Afrique, du lundi au vendredi de 15h à 16h, temps universel.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
Areas in South Africa's north of Durban have seen an increase in the number of breast and cervical cancer cases. That's according to KwaZulu-Natal Province Health MEC Nomagugu Simelane, who led a screening campaign at the Dr. Pixley Isaka Seme Memorial Hospital in the township of KwaMashu. Now, their aim was to reach about 2,500 women from Phoenix, Inanda, Ntunzuma, and KwaMashu in one day. Cervical cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths among women in South Africa. Dries Liebenberg reports.
According to research published in the South African Journal of HIV Medicine in 2023, records show that only 19% of South African women go for a pap smear every 3 years to screen for cervical cancer, as opposed to the goal of 70%. Because women don't undergo regular pap smears, cervical cancer claims more lives every year than breast cancer. KwaZulu-Natal Health MEC Nomagugu Simelane says they plan to take the screening drive to rural areas as well.
We know if we are able to pick the cancer, cervical cancer in early stages, we are able to treat it. If we are able to pick up breast cancer in the early stages, we are able to treat it. And we see that a lot of women are currently dying by or killed by cancers that actually shouldn't be killing them, because if they had been picked up earlier, we could be able to save them. So this is a drive that we are not just implementing now in this area only. We are going to be going to rural districts as well, because we find that the rural communities, they also have a challenge, and our positive numbers are going up there steadily.
Women of all ages arrived at the hospital to be screened. This is what some of them had to say.
I don't want to lie to you. I don't know anything about cancer. But when the children took me through it and explained to me, Ma, go and do your pap smear. I never had an education, but I know what pap smear is, and I hold on to the word pap smear.
I'm a cancer survivor, and I thank God. I want to encourage other women to go to their clinics more frequently so that they can get tested. You will live and be healthy, just like me.
apart from older women feeling embarrassed to undergo a cervical examination and the discomfort of the procedure. Simelane says people also have the attitude that you only go to a clinic once you are sick.
But we also find that even when they have tested, some don't come to pick up their results and some don't follow up on the treatment. So it's a number of issues that are affecting our communities. But there's also a greater understanding or something that our communities deal with, that you don't have to go to a clinic unless you are sick. And we want to say to our communities, you actually have to go to a clinic before you are sick.
Nursing sister Bawinile Dlamini from the Umzinyathi district on the KwaZulu-Natal North Coast, who brought people to the screening, says one of the biggest problems is ignorance.
They don't have knowledge, only a few do. But when you sit down with patients and teach them, as a healthcare worker, I sit down with them. And once I've gone through it, they are more receptive and informed.
The women who attended the screening won't have to return to the hospital for their results. They will be able to pick it up at their local clinic in 6 weeks. I am Dries Liebenberg in Durban.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et votre 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Chad is facing a deadly cholera outbreak in its eastern provinces, with the epidemic claiming at least 75 lives since mid-July. And to help contain the spread, the World Health Organization and UNICEF have delivered 1.1 million doses of cholera vaccines, with a mass vaccination campaign set to begin this week in the affected regions of Sila and Huadai. The initiative comes at a time when several African countries are grappling with rising cholera cases, raising broader concerns about water sanitation and the impact of climate change. Well, to tell us a little bit more about this situation is UNICEF's Chief of Health, Dr. Victor Ngogala. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure joining you on the program.
Perhaps we can start with why it is that Chad has been prioritized for this batch of cholera vaccines and what factors informed the decision to deliver this 1.1 million doses.
As you may know, the oral cholera vaccine is managed by an international coordinating group made up of UNICEF, WHO, Médecins Sans Frontières, that's Doctors Without Borders, and the International Federation of the Red Cross. They have strict criteria that they follow to approve the award of stock of vaccines, the cholera vaccine, to any country. And for Chad met all of these criteria, one being that the epidemiological risk for the country with this epidemic is very high, considering the limited means and resources to bring the outbreak under control. We are talking of a situation of overcrowded refugee camps, poor sanitation, and limited access to clean water, factors that are creating ideal conditions for the disease to spread. Also, one of the criteria is the capacity of the country to bring the outbreak under control using medical and other interventions. Given the weak health system in Chad, and particularly in those two provinces, that has been overwhelmed since April 2023 by the massive influx of refugees. The countries would not be able to bring this epidemic under control without using the vaccine. Also, this vaccine is usually indicated in situations where you can do a circumscribed vaccination geographically. Since it's affecting refugee camps, it is an effective intervention that has been considered. And finally, in terms of the criteria, the government of Chad had to come forth with a robust vaccination campaign strategy, defining clearly and the operational feasibility of the campaign, and commit itself to provide the international coordination group with vaccination data to assess the vaccine's impact on the epidemic. So all these put together were a strong motivation for the ICG, the International Coordinating Group, to approve the award of the vaccines to Chad.
Are children more vulnerable to the consequences of cholera?
Yes. In fact, from the data that we have, 65. Let me first say the most affected age groups are the 5 to 14 years and 15 to 44 years. These represent 65% of all the cases that have been reported. So far, we are talking of 1,331 cases as of the 28th of August. So children are much more vulnerable to the disease.
So cholera outbreaks are increasingly linked now to climate-related flooding. How is UNICEF addressing this long-term challenge in Chad and across Africa, actually?
Well, you may want to note that flooding, particularly in Chad, is part of climate change consequences, and Chad ranks second in the world as a country where children are most at risk of climate change. The evidence is that we have seasonal occurrences of droughts and floodings compounded with low access to water, sanitation, and hygiene services, and increased risk of epidemics, including cholera. So UNICEF is supporting the government and with other partners and communities in addressing this challenge linked to flooding. In fact, when there's flooding, already in these two provinces, water is very difficult to come by. And so when there's flooding, every source of water is contaminated and increases the risk of waterborne diseases, notably cholera and at times hepatitis E.
I'm just wondering what lessons from Chad's experience could be applied to other African countries currently at risk or potentially facing similar outbreaks.
Yeah, for now, in terms of lessons, the first would be anticipation, because the current outbreak in Chad, we saw it coming, because since July 2024, there has been a cholera outbreak in the neighboring Sudan. And given the movements of people across the borders and the massive influx of the refugees, it was expected that at some point there would be a case, and if not quickly brought under control, it would flare up and yield an outblown epidemic. So all the partners and the government have been working, preparing towards an eventual outbreak, putting in place structures, pre-positioning supplies, and preparing teams to stand by and intervene immediately a case was detected. So this is one area. Also, in terms of contingency planning, a lesson would be to already earmark and put aside resources to be put to use once there's an outbreak, so as to hasten or speed up the response and reduce the expansion of the outbreak.
They say that prevention is better than cure. What are you advising citizens to do to try and prevent getting cholera?
Thank you for that question. Very important. Absolutely, prevention is better than cure. At this moment, there is a huge action in terms of sensitizing populations on the risk of contracting cholera, and also providing the most vulnerable ones with kits to prevent contracting cholera in terms of water treatment, tablets, and other components of sanitation to enable them prevent contracting the disease. There's a lot of activity at community level being supported to get all the population to be aware of the risk of the disease and the measures to take in order to prevent catching the disease.
Dr. Ngongala, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed, and we wish you the best with this massive initiative to help so many people. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure having this conversation with you.
That was Dr. Victor Ngongala, who's the Chief of Health at UNICEF Chad, speaking to us about the efforts to contain the cholera outbreak in the eastern provinces of the country. It's now 8 o'clock Central African time, and thank you so much indeed for joining us for this, the third and final hour of the Monday edition. And for those in the Southern Hemisphere, Spring Day, happy Spring Day. The summer cycle is starting. And for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, I know that you've had a great summer, but perhaps it's time to cool things down. We'll be thinking of you. But coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking to Job Sikala, whose house was bombed over the weekend. He was in South Africa launching his biography, a launch that he couldn't do in Zimbabwe. The authorities prevented him several times there, as well as party supporters of ZANU-PF. And we'll get a sense of what's happening at home, and also his story and why it's causing so much upset with some figures in Zimbabwe. And don't forget, we are broadcasting live from Johannesburg on www.channelafrica.co.za, and you can also catch us on our mobile app. That's SABC Plus in your app store, and look for Channel Africa. It's 8 o'clock. Here is your news with Noluthando Buthelezi, followed by your news headlines, your sports headlines with Figelet Lingwati.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. A woman has been attacked and burned to death by a mob in central Nigeria for alleged blasphemous comments against the Prophet Muhammad. The incident reportedly happened on Saturday after the woman made comments considered offensive while interacting with a customer in her restaurant. The BBC's Chris Ebuka has the details.
According to the Nigerian police, the woman, identified as a food vendor named Amaye, was attacked and set alight by a mob in the Kaswangaruba community on Saturday evening. Local reports suggest the incident began when a customer jokingly proposed marriage to the woman, citing Islamic tradition. Her alleged response was considered blasphemous. An angry mob attacked and killed her, while the authorities were unable to protect her.
A head-on collision in Namibia involving vehicles belonging to the security services has killed 16 people. The accident took place 167 miles south of the capital, Windhoek, outside the town of Marienshell on Saturday. President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah wrote on social media saying that no words can truly capture the depth of the loss. Namibia has one of the highest road traffic fatality rates in the world. 2 civilians and 14 officers were among those confirmed to have been killed in the crash. Namibia's Ministry of Home Affairs initially put the death toll at 14, but in an update on Sunday said that this had now risen as a police officer and prison officer had died of their injuries in hospital. Eswatini opposition Pudemo Treasurer General Velapi Mamba has strongly criticized the resurgence of monarchies and traditional leadership across Africa. He was speaking during the launch of Zimbabwe opposition leader Job Sikala's book in Johannesburg at the weekend. Mamba says that while his party fights for change in Eswatini, that does not entitle them to rule.
We as Pudemo are fighting for change in Swaziland, but that doesn't give us a license to govern. The license to govern belongs to the people of Swaziland. So this question of sovereignty is very important. And this resurgence, comrades, of monarchies and traditional leaders is a dangerous thing for this continent.
Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has arrived in Beijing to attend the September 3rd commemorations of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression. The event also commemorates the World Anti-Fascist War and the V-Day military parade. Mnangagwa is among the 26 heads of state or government who have been invited by the Chinese president to attend the commemoration. China plans to use the event to reaffirm its commitment to defending the victorious outcomes of World War II and contributing to world peace and development. Around 500 people have been killed and 1,000 more injured in an earthquake that struck eastern Afghanistan on Monday. This is according to the country's state-run Radio Television Afghanistan. Taliban-led health authorities in Kabul, however, said that they were still confirming the official toll figure. The officials say that they are working to reach more remote areas. For any news stories that you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Nolutando Butelezi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Now, sports headline, Al Ahly has sacked Jose Riverio, and brilliant Springbok women pull off an Italian job at Women's Rugby World Cup. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Right, let's take a look at this story now. Zimbabwean opposition leader Job Wiwo Sikala has long been one of the country's most outspoken political figures. A lawyer, activist, veteran and struggle hero for democracy. Over the years, he's faced arrests, intimidation, harassment, but he has never stopped speaking out. And most recently, his home in Chitungwiza, just outside Harare, was bombed in a shocking attack whilst his children were asleep inside. Fortunately, no lives were lost, but the incident has raised serious questions about the political violence and security in Zimbabwe. At the same time, Sikala has just released his much-anticipated autobiography, Footprints in the Chains, the life story of Job Sikala. And the book reflects on his journey from humble beginnings through decades of political activism to become one of the most persecuted opposition leaders in the country. Well, to discuss both the attack and the story of his life, we're now joined by Job Sikala himself, who is currently in Johannesburg. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Peter.
Let's start with this tragic, this shocking news about the bombing of your property in Zimbabwe. What have you been able to piece together since the incident?
There is nothing that has yet come out from the police. The family made the report to the police as soon as the incident happened. The police came, and since then they've not yet given us the feedback on their investigations on what could have happened and who could have done the job. There is lethargy from the side of the law enforcement agencies for them to immediately apprehend the criminals who did the terrorist attack at my house.
Do you have any suspicion as to who might have done this?
Since the day of the bombing up to present, I've been trying to follow the trends of the reaction of those people whom I suspected, to see whether it was them or not. What I've noticed is that my suspicions are being confirmed that these people would have anything to do with ZANU-PF, on the basis that the majority of the people from that organization and its agencies, and including government actors, are commenting in a manner that demonstrates that they are trying to give defense already, that this thing was an internal job that could have been done by myself or my family, demonstrating and showing that they are the ones who are my primary suspects now. There is no reason, and anyway, they could have said that they should have allowed the investigations to be completed without coming to those conclusions. They've been giving such kind of allegations several times to many people who have been the victim of the regime's excesses against the citizens of Zimbabwe. So, having already observed the government actors trying to downplay the terrorist attack that has happened at my house, it shows that they are now my primary suspects. Because I would not expect any form of empathy, obviously, from these people who have been persecuting me for a long time, but their reaction demonstrates that they might have a hand on what happened at my house.
This isn't the first time that you've been subject to bombings of this nature. Tell us about previous incidents, and were you able to ascertain definitively who was responsible before?
Yes, before it was clear that there were state agencies, and also state agents, and also ZANU-PF political actors since 2000. The bombing of my house that I used to stay before my current location, and also the bombing of my shopping complex that also took place some years ago. All this pointed to none other than the state agencies and actors. You know, Zimbabwean police are known to be very effective in terms of investigations for any criminal activity that could to take place in our country. But the way how they approach when opposition political actors are victim of an attack, an arrest, or assault, or even murder, has left a lot to be desired. There are quite a number of many cases, including murder cases, that have not been investigated up to present. Some of them lasting as far back as 20 years ago. So when you when you realize that those who are responsible for enforcing the law are reluctant to swiftly and effectively deal with the matter, it should show you that the job should have come from the state actors. It has been the job done by their own paying masters. And so they will not have the tenacity and the energy for them to investigate and quickly apprehend the culprits. Just for example, since this bombing happened last Saturday in the early hours of Saturday evening, up to present, the police have not yet issued the statement on their suspicions. They collected the debris of the bomb that was used to attack my house, and up to present, we haven't yet obtained anything. And also the kind of the instrument that was used to attack my house shows that you know, those things cannot be obtained by a common or an ordinary citizen in Zimbabwe. They should have been they can only be obtained by those who have access to them, who in most cases are state actors. So definitely that's why my suspicion surrounds those people who are state actors and those who are in SANU-PF.
All right, just before we carry on, I just wanted to ask you to fix your camera so that people can see you. I think they want to know that it's you and you're okay. Before we turn our attention to your biography, how are your children doing? This must have been a really traumatic experience for them, especially having lived through your 2 years of incarceration, pre-trial detention. They've gone through a lot in their young lives.
You know, these are teenagers. All my kids were teenagers who were at home at the material time. They seriously got shocked after the massive explosion. The sound of the explosion was heard distance away from my house, several kilometers away from my house. People were saying that we heard the sound of this explosion in Yatsime, and Yatsime is some 5 kilometer distance away from my house. It shows and demonstrates that you know, the explosion was a massive weapon that was used. To which, if it could have been heard 5 kilometers away from my house, what could have happened to the young kids who were in the house? When I phoned them after I got the report of what happened, my children were all crying over the phone, saying that they wanted to kill us. They wanted to kill us. And the intention of these people who carried out the terrorist attack at my house is very clear. They wanted to kill my children. And I don't know for whatever reason. Anyone who is suspected, the police must arrest anyone whom they suspect to have committed this offense, and they should not take sides in that we don't protect opposition political leaders in our country. You suffer at your own risk. So this is the situation that we are facing, and the intention of killing my children was very clear when somebody would deploy those kind of explosions and bombs at my house. The intention was very clear.
Let's talk about your biography now, because it seems that this is also a threat or something that the authorities and ZANU-PF supporters didn't want to happen, given it was prevented, you were prevented from having successful launches in Zimbabwe before you came to South Africa. Take us through some of the things that you faced in trying to get this book launched in Zimbabwe.
As you know, my brother Peter Ndoro, when we tried to launch our book in Masvingo, after successfully launching it in Harare and Bulawayo, ZANU-PF dispatched a contingent of thugs who came and invaded the venue of our launch and disrupted it violently, and took all the books and distributed them free, some of them tearing them apart, and throwing chairs to the guest speakers who were lined up to speak on the day in question. So the disruption that happened in Masvingo had all the footprints and also the hand of the state and ZANU-PF. There is nothing that has happened also to those people who came and disrupted our book launch in Masvingo. Their names have been known, the video evidence authored by the people who were present, both from the media and also from individuals who was presented to the police. These are people who are well known by everyone in Masvingo. Issa Mufumi is a ZANU-PF thug and terrorist who is known by everyone in Masvingo, and he was visible in all the videos that were taken during the period of the disruption, and everyone knew him. He is the person who was properly captured. But up to present, there is nothing that has happened. They disrupted our book launch. No one was arrested. The whole country saw what happened. And the perpetrators of that disruption are not arrested. So it should not surprise you that even those people who have come and bombed my house will not be arrested, because the state has never been protecting those people who are opposed to it. Or rather, they are the perpetrators of violence against those opposed to them. So this recurrence of violence has been happening in our country, and it has been happening for a long time. So to be
We're
very
going to talk
frank with
about
you,
the contents of the book just now, but one final question. I mean, at your launch here in South Africa, there was a ZANU-PF official there as well who seemingly was reporting to his superiors during the launch. Tell us a little bit about that.
no, this ZANU-PF agent was caught by the security in South Africa. Here, the organizers of the launch had really put serious and thorough security infrastructure in place. And what happened is that I prevented death to happen. The way how the people who came to the book launch were so agitated on the background of the bombing that has happened at my house, and also on the background of other things, that irritated them, that happened back home, that irritates them, and also on the backdrop of many of them knowing that they are in South Africa because of the suffering that they endured on the hands of the ZANU-PF regime. The people who caught him wanted his pound of flesh. But I noticed that we cannot do exactly what these uncivilized terror gangs from ZANU-PF do to us, is what we should also do to them. I ask the people not to harm him, to allow him to get his gadgets, but unfortunately I was the last speaker at the book launch. So all these things happened. He was caught not very distant after the beginning of the program. It was just after some 30 minutes or 1 hour after the beginning of the event. What people caught from him is that he was typing some messages, WhatsApp messages, giving reports to his masters in Harare. Initially, the messages that he sent was identifying the people who have been seated up front as guest speakers, and also he reported what the author of the book, who was the first speaker, was saying at the meeting. It was a live coverage, and also secondly, he was discovered to have had the recording machine in his, which was tucked inside his shed, which means there was some transmission, the voice transmission of what was happening to some studio elsewhere of what people have been saying. So this person was not only an ordinary ZANU-PF person, but he is an agent or an informer of the security services in the country. If you have watched,
let's talk about the contents of the book, because I think a lot of people really need to read this to get an understanding. And I think through your life, it tells the story of probably what the current struggle that Zimbabweans have, maybe in terms of the kind of country that they want. Looking at your book, as a student activist, a student leader, as far back as then was one of the first attempts on your life. And I guess this was a sign of what was to come and the story of your adult life.
Yeah, that's very true, that my institution is not an issue of yesterday. It started long ago, since we started activism against the dictatorship in Harare. Yeah, you saw how we have been stabbed at the back, myself and Tafazo Msekiwa, when we went for the birthday party in Stungiza in 1998, during the period when the University of Zimbabwe was indefinitely closed. Then the stabbing was done by the members of the Central Intelligence Organization. And the person who stabbed us and immediately disappeared from the birthday celebrations was never apprehended. But the majority of the people who had been guests at the birthday party identified who that person was, and they all knew him, that he was the member of the Central Intelligence Organization. So the attack on myself and the several assassination attempts on my life have been made by state actors and their agents. And it has been a long journey of trials and tribulations, the long journey of pain and agony, the long journey of tears, where we have not been able to express ourselves as the citizens of Zimbabwe. This is what gives us, that is what keeps us going, on the basis that we cannot allow that kind of debauchery to continue happening in our country on our watch, because our children would need to be protected in the future. And that is why we are continuing fighting to make sure that we live a proper country where all citizens of Zimbabwe will be protected by the law enforcement agents, and the law will protect each and every one of our people. That is what keeps us going, to say that we should not relent in this fight, but we must intensify it so as to make sure that our children will be able to inherit a country where they will enjoy their basic rights.
The book is a life story. Writing it, who do you want to read it, and what message are you trying to get across apart from just narrating your life story?
If you would say that the book is not all about Job Scala, it will help many people to appreciate the trials and tribulations many Zimbabweans have gone through in their fight for democracy in Zimbabwe. It is rather a book that depicts on how the ruling party has persecuted not only myself, but several Zimbabweans who have been involved in the fight for a democratic, free state. And it also will help those who would want to know in detail or how the opposition forces in Zimbabwe have been organizing themselves, and also how the dictatorship has come to rampage whatever the opposition was doing, and also the pushback efforts by the opposition forces in Zimbabwe for them to be able to obtain a free democratic Zimbabwe. So in actual fact, it is a post-colonial history of trials and tribulations of several Zimbabweans. We have been fighting for a just country. We have been fighting for democracy and good governance in their country. It is a country that, it is the book that you will be able to tell the readers on how the opposition was able to organize itself and make sure Zimbabwe is restored back to its custodians, who are the people of Zimbabwe. So in short, this book will assist a lot of many people for them to understand the fight which the opposition parties in Zimbabwe have done, and also the pushback plan which the opposition put in place for them to make sure that the democratic struggle of our people continues.
Mr. Sakala, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for giving us your time. We wish you strength and safety going forward, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And let's hope that people pick up this book so that they get a better understanding of the situation in the country from many people's perspective. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, my brother Peter Ndoro, for this morning interview.
Thank you. That's Job Sakala, one of the most persecuted opposition figures in Zimbabwe as modern history. Arrested over 70 times, never convicted, and spent 595 days in jail before trial. It's unheard of, some of the things that he's endured. An assassination attempt as a student leader, and another a bomb attack just over the weekend where his children were in the house. Yeah. It's 8:30. Here are news headlines with Nolitando Buthelezi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
A head-on collision in Namibia involving vehicles belonging to the security services has killed 16 people. The accident took place 167 miles south of the capital Windhoek, outside the town of Mariental on Saturday. Eswatini opposition Podemo Treasurer General Velaphi Mamba has strongly criticized the resurgence of monarchies and traditional leadership across Africa. And the World Health Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund have delivered 1.1 million doses of cholera vaccines to Chad as the country battles a deadly outbreak in the eastern provinces. I'll have the details at the top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Right, let's catch you up with the world of sport. And at the desk this morning, Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with football news. Egyptian giants Al Ahly have parted ways with Spanish coach Jose Riveiro after just 7 matches in charge, following a 2-0 loss to rivals Pyramids FC at the weekend. The club confirmed the termination was by mutual consent, thanking Riveiro and his staff for their efforts during a brief but turbulent tenure. Appointed in May ahead of the FIFA Club World Cup, Riveiro's stint was marked by underwhelming performances, 2 draws, 1 win, and a disappointing early exit from the global tournament. Domestically, Al Ahly sit 12 in the league with just 5 points from 4 matches, a far cry from their continental ambitions. The Springbok women booked their place in the quarterfinals of the Women's Rugby World Cup for the first time with a 29-24 victory over Italy in Northampton on Sunday evening. Scores from Aseza Hele, Nadine Roos, Ayanda Malinga and Sizopela Solonzi had twice put Zvezdi Brain side in front, but a valiant Italian side fought back on both occasions. But in the end, it was the Southern Hemisphere outfit who prevailed, and the emotion was there for all to see from these and those in green and gold come full time as referee Ella Goldsmith's whistle was met with wild celebrations. On to cricket news. The match was played, that is the match of the Proteas that was played at the Chatsworth Oval. Tasman Brits was also happy with how they adapted to the pitch they're not all too familiar with.
We haven't played in Durban in a while and not on, Chatsworth's wicket. So yeah, it was nice to actually see how people adapted. I think with me and Law up front, we quickly assessed and we realized that it's more up and down than actually movement on the wicket. And that's where we felt we can maybe climb into certain bowlers. Like you said, with Kapi in a century, I think she brought the runs from the 100 to us here, so hopefully that can continue for her. I think she's very experienced as well, which we also picked up with the shots that she was playing. But just in general, I think a lot of people contributed in our team. It was nice. It was just a one-hit wonder. It was a lot of people running very hard, playing certain shots, and 20s, 30s and 40s that were coming along the line. So it was nice to see all the contributions.
Finally, motor racing Oscar Piastri powered to victory at an incident-packed Dutch Formula One Grand Prix yesterday, with home favourite Max Verstappen claiming second place as Piastri's McLaren teammate Lando Norris suffered a dramatic breakdown late in the race. Piastri led from pole to checkered flag at the Zandvoort circuit in a race that saw the safety car deployed 3 times to stretch his lead over Norris to 34 points in the championship race. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126 and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So yeah, that's who I am, you know.
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Right, let's now get the African perspective on what's been happening in the world of business. Tabiso Luhuko, good morning.
Business news on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Good morning. Ford South Africa is planning to lay off more than 470 employees as it seeks to adjust production capacity to match current and future market demands. The jobs affected are 391 operator positions at the Silverton Car Assembly in the country's capital Pretoria, 73 at Struendale Engine Plant in Gqeberha, a major seaport, and 10 administrative roles. Labour Union Solidarity says this move by Ford is indicative of economic pressures, international political uncertainties and the government's unfavourable policies, which are making the industry increasingly competitive. South Africa's Minister of Higher Education and Training, Buti Manamela, has launched the Just Energy Transition Skills Desk, the National Jet Skills Advisory Forum, and a multi-donor initiative. Manamela says the skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion between universities, TVET colleges, and community centres as central actors in a fair green transformation.
We recognize that skills are the bridge between transition and inclusion, between economic restructuring and social justice.
South Africa's Competition Commission has warned of those who attempt to collude and close off competition that they will be caught and prosecuted. This comes as Toyota Financials and Westbank reached a $1.7 million settlement without admission of liability, following accusations that Toyota restrained Westbank from offering motor vehicle finance to customers seeking to purchase vehicles at authorized Toyota dealerships. Nothando Makutulela reports.
According to the Competition Commission, a customer approached the commission after Westbank refused to finance a Toyota vehicle purchase. This accusation prompted the commission to look into the matter, and the matter was referred to the Competition Tribunal in 2022. In line with the investigation, the commission found that Toyota was in fact restricting Westbank from financing its clients.
A deputy governor of Mauritius Central Bank, Gerard Saint-Spier, says he had resigned from his post after clashing with the son of the bank's governor, whom he accused of trying to meddle in the running of the institution. Mauritian media reported that Prime Minister Navichandra Ramgoolam had dismissed Saint-Spier, who was the third most senior official at the central bank and had the title of second deputy governor. Saint-Spier says he had submitted his resignation due to an external influence that was seeking to control certain functions in the bank. Oil prices are traded in a tight range today, as worries about rising output and the impact of U.S. tariffs on demand offset supply disruptions stemming from intensified Russia-Ukraine airstrikes. Brent crude fell 30 US cents or 0.44% to $67.18 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $63.73 a barrel, down 28 cents or 0.44%. Trading is expected to be muted due to a U.S. bank holiday. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,537 naira. Botswana 13.32, Kenya 128 shilling 495, and Zambia 23 kwacha 65. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you 5.42. Russia 79 rubles 97. India 88 rupees 14 China, 7 yuan 12, and in South Africa the dollar will cost you 17 rand 62 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Gold is $3,473 and platinum $1,373 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $67.23 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459 for Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg. I'm Tabisolo Huku.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has been charged with incitement to terrorism and disobedience. He faces a total of 5 charges. The charges relate to post-election violence that left hundreds of people dead. What punishment is he looking at?
The most severe charges are 2. One is incitement for terrorism, and also is being charged for mobilizing people for terrorism during the protests. These charges are really serious and severe. If he is condemned, is found guilty, he could serve 10 years plus years in jail, meaning that he would be banned from political participation, mainly for the 2028 and 2029 electoral cycle.
The director of CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Adriano Novunga.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, says that the plan to relocate Taiwan's liaison office and change its name is final. In July, the ministry gazetted a notice for the relocation of the office from Pretoria to Johannesburg, changing its name to the Taiwan Commercial Office. However, Taiwan's representatives in South Africa have maintained that the unilateral relocation is in contravention of a 1997 agreement, which was signed with the UN General Assembly Resolution 1971, which recognizes Taiwan as part of mainland China. Tsepo Munghai reports.
The signature that officially ended Taiwan's formal diplomatic relations with South Africa and marked the end of an era. On the 1st of January 1998, South Africa officially joined a long list of nations to adopt the One China policy, a move that ended its long-standing formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan. For the People's Republic of China, it was a symbolic win, solidifying its position on the global stage. But behind the scenes, the decision was far from simple. The diplomatic switch was complex because of the history between Taiwan and the governing ANC. Taiwan had extended a hand of friendship and support to the ANC during the days of apartheid.
Of course, the ideal situation, not only for us, for many countries, would have been to have relations with both. But we've all learned that it is not possible to do that. But we can have relations with Taiwan, like other countries that have established relations with Taiwan at a non-diplomatic level.
South Africa's future relations with the two Chinas almost divided the nation. The issue dominated Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs, then chaired by former ANC MP Raymond Satna. Satna, who was also a member of the South African Communist Party, was a key voice in the push for closer ties with mainland China, the People's Republic of China. But even as he advocated for this shift, Satna encouraged former President Nelson Mandela's approach of consulting both Beijing and Taipei before making a final decision.
Primarily a fact-finding mission to hear what the views are of both sides as to how South Africa can resolve this problem of having diplomatic relations with Beijing, but maintaining a relationship with Taiwan, what type of relationship it should be.
The ANC government in 1994 inherited a strong and well-established diplomatic relations with the Republic of China, also known as Taiwan. This relationship had been a cornerstone of the apartheid government's foreign policy, and it continued to deepen during the later years of the apartheid government. The government of former President F.W. de Klerk made the first move to lay the foundation for future strong ties with the People's Republic of China back in the early 90s. De Klerk had led the establishment of a trade office in mainland China. At the time, this was a controversial decision. When questioned, de Klerk defended his decision, arguing for the necessity of forging new relations.
I'm a little bit surprised that there is that concern, because on my visit to Taipei, this was dealt with fully at the press conference, and I there gave the absolute assurance that the opening of offices to facilitate trade and to deal with certain very basic things would in no way negatively affect our relationship with the Republic of China now or in the future.
De Klerk had come to terms with the fact that apartheid could no longer continue. He was interested in, radical reform of the system at worst, its transformation at best. But he was a realist who recognized that the People's Republic of China was an emergent and rising power, and you couldn't continue as if that wasn't the case. So it was a realistic assessment of the international situation on his part.
In 1994, as South Africa transitioned to democracy, ANC President Nelson Mandela made a clear commitment to build diplomatic ties with Taiwan. This was not just a political gesture, it was backed by substantial financial support from Taipei. To secure its relationship with the incoming ANC government, Taiwan donated millions of dollars. A significant portion of this funding was earmarked for a critical task to demobilize and resettle the returning members of Umkhonto weSizwe, the ANC military wing. Taiwan's generosity also extended to the political arena, helping fund the ANC historic 1994 election campaign. Taiwan pledged further commitment by establishing a vocational training center in Pretoria. During the signing ceremony at the Union Buildings, Mandela vowed to deepen relations between Pretoria and Taipei.
Well, a feeling of excitement, but one must understand that the relations between South Africa and the Republic of China have quite a long history. And I have been to the Republic of China on matters relating to my organization. I was received there very warmly by President Lee, and his response to our request exceeded our wildest expectations.
On the other hand, the ANC had enjoyed a long history of friendship with the mainland China dating back to the 1950s. The unexpected happened when Mandela announced that South Africa will soon cut all government-to-government relations with the Republic of China, or Taiwan.
Well, this is Minister Chang from Taiwan. As you are aware, we have announced that at the end of next year, we will sever diplomatic relations with Taiwan, or the Republic of China. This is a matter that has created a great deal of shock and disappointment on the part of the President, the government, and people of Taiwan. And I assured the Minister here that I fully understand that sense of shock and disappointment. But I went further to say I have agonized over this decision because I knew precisely what it would mean to the government and the people of that country. But that there comes a time when a man, in the interest of his own country, has to take a decision which hurts a very close friend. And this decision has hurt them very badly indeed. But we had a very good discussion with him because in spite of the decision that I've taken, we are going to maintain relations on the highest level short of diplomatic relations.
Taiwan was shattered by the announcement. Its strong local business community temporarily closed their doors as a way of protest. For some reason, there was a deeply held belief that Madiba Magic will somehow find a way to navigate the treacherous waters of international diplomacy and convince Beijing to accept a form of dual recognition for Taiwan. The announcement was a hard one. Mandela was at pains to explain the incredibly difficult position he was in. To manage the fallout, he invited Taiwan's Minister of Foreign Affairs John Cheng to South Africa. A compromise was proposed, moving beyond formal diplomatic recognition to something new. At the end of his visit, Cheng was so unhappy that he announced the immediate suspension of development funding and halted $40 million investment in a vocational training center in Pretoria West.
And President Mandela has assured me and assured the government of the Republic of China that at the highest level, arrangement will be done as a framework for our future relationship. And the talk will be continued between the two governments in the forthcoming 12 months.
In terms of the agreement signed with Mandela, Taiwan would maintain a symbolic presence through a liaison office in the capital to deal only with trade matters. Its embassy was demoted to a liaison office. The agreement also prevented Taiwan to fly its flag at all its buildings.
We shall always appreciate the relationship that we have had with Taiwan before now. But as I repeated so many times, it was inevitable that South Africa would come to a position of recognizing international practice insofar as the relationship is concerned between us and the People's Republic of China. During the days of our struggle, the People's Republic of China was with us.
Last year, the South African government instructed Taiwan liaison office to move out of the administrative capital in Pretoria. Taiwan's representative in South Africa, Oliver Liao, said this is against an agreement that was signed with Taiwan in 1997.
South Africa and Taiwan agreed to establish liaison offices in each other's capital city, according to an agreement our two governments adopted in 1997 prior to the diplomatic switch in the following year.
Last month, government issued a government gazette notice to relocate Taiwan's representative office in Pretoria. The gazette also indicates that Taiwan liaison office will now be referred to as a commercial office based in Johannesburg. But Taiwan's representative in South Africa maintains that the agreement acknowledges South Africa's stance on the One China policy and the UN resolution of 1971.
The agreement was deliberately and carefully crafted by President Nelson Mandela's administration to deal with the UNGA Resolution 2758, which was adopted in 1971, and the non-diplomatic relations between South Africa and Taiwan after the diplomatic switch. In other words, President Mandela's administration was fully mindful of the One China policy it was about to adopt and had taken it well into consideration before entering into the existing agreement with Taiwan. This agreement is not only a legacy that President Mandela left to his future generations, it has also been working effectively and smoothly, allowing South Africa and Taiwan to preserve our friendship and collaboration as much as possible on a non-diplomatic basis. Abandoning the agreement is literally a denial to Madiba's wisdom.
International Relations and Cooperation Minister Ronald Lamola says the relocation of Taiwan Commercial Office from Pretoria to Johannesburg is a done deal.
The issue of the relocation of the Taiwan liaison office, we have, from our side, we consider it done, because we have gazetted its relocation to the city of Johannesburg as a commercial liaison office, and we have stated the reasons, because our relations with Taiwan are at the commercial level and trade. And this is not just a South African phenomenon. In many capitals across the globe, Taiwan is in the commercial cities, not some South African exceptionalism.
Despite the diplomatic setbacks, a representative from Taiwan in South Africa continued to operate with a level of privilege reserved for official diplomatic missions. This includes the use of official diplomatic corps number plate on their vehicles and diplomatic immunity. I am Tshepo Mungwai in Johannesburg.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
Right, let's find out what's coming up on the move after the 9 o'clock news. And in studio to tell us is Palisa. Happy spring day.
Yes.
The summer cycle's beginning.
Happy spring day, Peter, and happy Monday as well.
Amen. So,
all right, we're going to start off with today on our gender-based violence focus. And today looking at one that's actually hard to prove and really harder to navigate, financial abuse. Is what we'll be looking at in the first hour of the show. And I mean, can you go to the police and report financial abuse? What are really the dynamics of that particular situation? And it is a huge form of abuse, in fact, all across the world. In our second hour today, we're going into a youth conversation. And in today's African View debate, we know that a lot of youth aren't having enough opportunities on the African continent. So many of them are, looking to go beyond our borders to look for work. And the debate today is, should African youth migrate to other parts of the world in search of a brighter future? So we're going to have Tony Silas Dauda and Zigwai Tagwai debating that conversation today. Then we wrap it up in our health and fitness conversations. And usually when you go to like a gym environment, a workout environment, you almost feel the pressure to like try everything. You have to work out this section and that section. But today we're focusing on, can you just, look and focus at one single exercise and master it? So we'll be diving into that and seeing how that can actually help your progression in a different way.
You see, that's what I want with this
Me too.
sugar-free challenge that I have with...
Just no sugar and then everything works out. 6-pack next week. No sugar.
But that financial abuse thing is a really big one. And a lot of women end up staying in abusive relationships because they don't have the financial power to get out. And most of those men actually say, stop working, look after my children,
so
and
then they give
them.
themselves time to abuse you.
No, terrible. I look forward to that. So that's on the move coming up after the 9 o'clock news. And just to let you know, Asanda wasn't here today, but she'll be back tomorrow, thankfully. And coming up soon after the 9 o'clock news, as you've just heard, Asanda and Benjamin, and they've got a packed program which you don't want to miss. Lots of interesting topics on the agenda. But from me, Peter Ndoro, and the team, have an awesome day, everybody. Have a wonderful spring day. And the summer cycle begins for us in the southern hemisphere. And those in the north, Jammer vir jou. Sorry, winter's coming. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early, 6 a.m. Central African time. The news is next.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning.